This is the Visitor Center. We're so excited to join you this morning.
Oh, hello there, Ranger Bonnie. I'm really excited to be talking to you too. We're coming to you live from underwater here at Anacapa Island on an absolutely pristine day here in our kelp forest ecosystem. And even though I'm underwater, surrounded by these towering cathedrals of kelp, I'm still connected to you. I can hear and see you. I can hear you, rather. And you can see and hear me down in the kelp forest of Anacapa Island. And I have it on good authority. Word on the street is you've got an audience of members of the public with you over there, buddy. Is that right?
Yes, we do. We have lots of families, especially.
Fantastic. We actually have an audience of one here as well. Matt, if you want to pan over to one of our new friends we found in the kelp forest. We've got a kelp bass or a calico bass who's eagerly watching onto this presentation, blending in really well with the stipe of giant kelp. There it goes. It swims out of the kelp forest. Hi, bass. So, safe to say we've got audiences on both sides of the camera right now. But I wonder if we can test the connection between your audience and us down here by giving a big thank you all together to volunteers Matt and Taylor and Kevin today for their help getting this program going. So a big thank you, volunteers. Otherwise, we would not be able to make this program happen and come to you live from the kelp. Are you ready, Bonnie, on 3?
We're ready. 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. We're getting a little bit of applause here from behind the scenes from our volunteers. Yeah, this is a lovely day to be connected to you, Ranger Bonnie. Because right now, I'm admiring the sunlight piercing through this underwater forest. And we get to share that moment together through the Channel Islands Live program. But even if we weren't broadcasting today, if this camera went dark, if we closed up the visitor center, we'd still be connected to each other. I'd be connected to the kelp forest, and you would be too, even on the mainland in Ventura. That's because the kelp forest and our ocean ecosystems impact our lives, whether we're watching them or not. Kelp is an algae, a lot like a plant. It photosynthesizes, or it takes in sunlight and carbon dioxide and produces oxygen, helping us breathe. In fact, kelp and its tiny little algae friends produce half or more of the oxygen in our ocean and in our atmosphere. So every breath that we take, we are connected to the ocean, and we have kelp to thank for that. And Ranger Bonnie, let's see if we can test that theory together. I wonder if our audience can join me in taking a deep breath and saying, thanks for the help, kelp. Are you ready?
We're ready. 1, 2, 3.
I certainly feel connected to you all right now. Kelp has these blades that are a lot like the leaves of trees on land. Because just like trees or plants on the mainland above the water are creating a forest, so are the kelp forests down here in our marine ecosystems. And Ranger Bonnie, I wonder if our audience has any suggestions, because I know we're all used to walking, hiking through forests on land, or maybe have seen photos of some gorgeous redwood forests in our state. What's the first word that comes to mind when we think about a forest?
And the answer is tree.
Trees? Yeah, for sure. Trees is a great one. What else, Ranger Bonnie? What else do we think about when we have a forest pop into our minds?
And another answer is stand by. Another answer is Ranger Ruvain. Maybe you could help us?
Absolutely. When I go out hiking in a forest, I like the birds. I like the sound of the chirping all around me. I'm a big fan of birds. I don't know many birds, but I like to hear them anyways. So for me, it's a lot of the wildlife within the forest. And just like our audience member suggested, trees are essential. They're a foundation of a forest on land. And kelp is the foundation of life in a lot of our marine ecosystems here in the park. not just producing the air that we breathe, but supporting over 1,000 different species of marine life. A lot like those birds or the animals that I might enjoy walking through the redwoods in Big Sur, or some of my favorite places. So we're going to highlight some of those connections. We're not just breathing in the oxygen that kelp produces. We're connected to the many animals, and a few plants, actually, that live in the ecosystem. So Volunteer Taylor is actually bringing one of those over here right now. This is one that I don't think we've featured on the broadcast yet this year. It's got a very funny name. This is a giant keyhole limpet. A giant keyhole limpet is a type of mollusk. It's very squishy to the touch. If you were here with me right now, it would almost be like playing with Play-Doh. And they've got this tiny little keyhole-like shell with a little opening at the top. They can shrink themselves up if they need to and have more of their body be covered by their shell. But it almost looks like they're wearing a top hat. But giant keyhole limpets are connected to the kelp because they eat algae, they eat other animals like bryozoans. So the kelp provides structure for them to live in, as well as food. It's their home. I wonder, Ranger Bonnie, from our visitors joining us today, where is their home? Where are some of our audience members coming from? Do we have some locals from Ventura? Did people travel across the country to be here today? Who are we have the pleasure of meeting with?
One family is visiting from
Idaho.
Idaho, wow. So we're hundreds of miles away from home. I really like Idaho. Even from a place like Idaho, which might seem far away from the kelp forest of California, you're connected to the kelp forest and connected to this keyhole limpet that I keep flailing around instead of showing to all of you. Giant keyhole limpets are actually really important in medical science. Inside all of us right now, we've got blood coursing through our veins, which has hemoglobin, or a compound that binds to oxygen, takes oxygen from the air that we breathe, from our lungs, and disperses it to the rest of our body so we can use it. Well, keyhole limpets and other invertebrates have a similar compound in them that takes oxygen and spreads it through their body. It's a carrier, and that carrier protein is being used in all kinds of novel medical research right now. People are farming keyhole limpets and using their blood to get that protein for cancer research, for groundbreaking vaccine research, so that they can use that non-toxic carrier protein to take different things like vaccines throughout the bodies of humans in a way that's safe. There might be somebody in the town you're from in Idaho right now benefiting from some life-saving treatment because of the keyhole limpet and the kelp forest that supports them. I think that's pretty cool. Ranger Bonnie, do we have any thoughts or questions from our visitors and our audience about the keyhole limpet? Or maybe a comment? Poetic musing?
And adults, you're welcome to ask any questions too. We have a question, and the question is,
do these usually stay on rocks, or where are they found?
That is a good question. So keyhole limpets, like these rocky reef ecosystems, will usually find them affixed to an underwater rock or boulder. They've got these really mushy undersides that are really good for sticking onto things. If I lift my hands here, I can turn it upside down. The keyhole limpet's going to stay attached. They're actually nocturnal, so they'll mostly hide during the day, and then they come out and nibble on bryozoans and kelp and other things throughout the day. But we're lucky enough to see one during the daytime. But they're not the only animal that's connected to the kelp forest around us. Let's go take a look. Cameraman Matt, if you want to lead us towards one of the iconic species of kelp forest denizens. Ranger Bonnie, while we're heading over here, if we have any thoughts from our audience, questions, as my colleague Ranger Beatty would like to say, philosophical musings, now's a great
We
time.
do have a question.
Can't you see abalone in there? I love them.
Oh, what an incredible transition that was. Yes, we can see abalone in the kelp forest. In fact, we're looking at one right now. So right here, in front of my hand, is our pretty large pink abalone. The scientific name for abalone, the genus is Haliotis. And I've nicknamed this particular abalone Hallie, just because it's been on this same rock ever since I started working at Channel Islands National Park 4 years ago. Abalone are marine snails who can move pretty fast if they want to. But when they're in a habitat where they feel safe and there's food all around them, they can stay right in the buffet line surrounded by kelp for years at a time. This particular abalone and its other friend, tucked away in the corner, are an awesome sight to see here in Anacapa Landing Cove, because abalone are connected to us all. The Channel Islands are the traditional homelands of the Chumash people. This is their ancestral territory and their homelands. Thousands of years ago, when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, where we are currently diving, Chumash people would have been walking. So in some cases, we're literally swimming through the homelands of the Chumash people, who also were deeply connected to the ocean and abalone, and remain so to this day, as the Chumash people are still here, and they are still the traditional stewards and caretakers of these islands. Connection to abalone has persisted between humans and these gorgeous snails since time immemorial. A food source, containers, a way of life. Abalone are connected to us all. Even today, up until 2019, there was a red abalone fishery in Northern California. And it's so awesome that we see this abalone here today, because it means we're in a really healthy kelp forest. Abalone eat kelp. They need algae like kelp to drift by for them to survive. It's one of their favorite snacks. One of my favorite snacks, too. But it's a little more important to the abalone than it is to me. Right now, we're in such a healthy kelp forest here at Anacapa Marine Reserve because this area is protected. There's no fishing or take of any kind allowed in here. For many years, animals like sheephead or lobster have been able to survive as predators and grow big so that they can keep the ecosystem in balance. So we're in a really healthy marine reserve at the moment with such large abalone who are able to grow big right in front of us. So I'm offering a little bit of kelp to this abalone here. I'm curious, our visitor, who was really excited to see abalone on this program, what's your connection to this snail? Why do you feel excited when you see abalone?
Ruvain, could you repeat your question? We lost connection. Can you repeat that again?
Absolutely. We had one audience member who was really jazzed about seeing abalone today. And I'm curious why they feel connected to this awesome little snail we have.
What do you love about the abalone?
Oh, I love to put in the rice soup and just saute them. But they're very expensive.
Yeah, abalone
I
are
have
delicious.
many abalone sushis in my life. And I have probably a few hundreds abalone shells in my home.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have a collection of abalone shells too. Yeah, abalone have been connected to human life for thousands of years, and there's lots of good ways to prepare them as a food source. Unfortunately, across much of California, that connection has been altered And we're going to talk a little bit why at our next stop in the kelp forest. So Matt, if you want to lead us back into the kelp forest of Anacapa Island, we're going to take a look at one or two more animals that call the kelp forest home. Because like I mentioned earlier, abalone like to feed on the kelp. This algae is their food. So surrounded in a healthy kelp forest, this is a giant smorgasbord for snails like the abalone, and for other species as well, like this one that my colleague Taylor is bringing over. This gorgeous animal right here is a red urchin. Urchins, just like the abalone, are a species of marine animal who like to eat kelp. In a healthy kelp forest, urchins spend much of their time hiding in cracks and crevices. They've got all these little shimmery tube feet that you can see on their underside called podia that they use to stick to their rock. And once they stick there, they can stay pretty well stuck. Then they'll venture out at night, trying to avoid predators, and munch on little bits of drift kelp or whatever they can find floating by. And because we're in a marine reserve that's protected, species like the red urchin have lots of predators, one of which we're going to take a look at as soon as I can get Volunteer Taylor's attention. He's very busy inspecting. Oh, this is a really cool one. The next animal on our program, one of which's spines has come loose. So this is actually not a live animal, but the molt, or the exoskeleton of a small California spiny lobster. California spiny lobster are a predatory species. They're connected to the kelp forest because species like the urchin live here, and they like to munch on those urchins. In a marine reserve, or a place where lobsters are protected from fishing, they can go from this size, like a juvenile, to one possibly bigger than the span of my hands. Can you imagine this tiny little lobster munching on this urchin? It would have a really tough time. That's why marine reserves are so important. Inside of reserves, lobsters have the time to grow big and grow abundant so that they can get big enough to eat the urchin of this size. Outside of the reserves, where lobsters are smaller, it's a lot harder for them to control the populations of urchins. And so we see areas outside of reserves that are not like the giant kelp forest you see behind me. Because urchins, without predators, can overgraze. Even though they're a native species, if we take too many of their predators, they can munch through all of the kelp and leave behind barrens. And so our visitor was mentioned earlier, the different ways they like to prepare abalone. Well, the abalone fisheries across California have been closed for many years now because too many urchins, the smaller cousin of this urchin called the purple urchin especially, have lost their traditional predators. So in a really healthy kelp forest ecosystem here, we can show the connection that humans have to maintaining a balanced ecosystem and to protecting our environment. By establishing marine reserves, by following catch limits and size limits outside of reserves, we can do our part to make sure we're leaving enough predators to keep our ocean healthy, so that the abalone can one day recover across California the way that we find them in Anacapa Landing Cove. It's especially important because this past week we opened up the lobster fishery. It's lobster season here in California. So people are heading to the ocean to continue their connection of recreationally fishing for these lobster here. And by being good stewards, by following state law about the consumption of lobster, And by respecting marine reserves, we can do our part to help the kelp and make sure we remain connected to our ocean in a positive way. Ranger Bonnie, I wonder, there's probably lots of other ways that we can stay connected to our oceans and we can help the kelp forest ecosystem. Does our audience have any other thoughts or ideas that they'd like to share? A poetic musing maybe about how we can help the kelp?
And the answer is
Prevent the trash to go to the forest.
Ranger Bonnie, I caught part of that answer.
she
I
shared,
heard the word trash mentioned in there. So if we could share that one more time.
and the answer is
Preventing the trash to go to the wildlife forest.
Oh yeah, preventing the trash from making its way out here. Yeah, that's a great example of what we can do to help keep a healthy kelp forest. You might have noticed I've got this really stylish manta ray hair clip on my head during this program. That's not an accident. One of our volunteers actually found this clip here in Anacapa Landing Cove. It's a kind of marine debris. Marine debris is trash that makes its way out into the ocean. It can wash up on our beaches. We can find it while scuba diving. And it impacts our kelp forests. Things like plastic bags look a lot like jellyfish that can be ingested by predators. Trash will find its way into the ocean and impact all of the life out here. It's another way that we're connected to the ocean. So by making sure that we're reducing the amount of trash that we make and reusing things before they become trash and disposing of our waste properly, we can help keep marine debris, like this little clip here, which I am reusing today for this live dive, from making its way out into the ocean and keep our oceans clean and healthy. So that's a great suggestion. How about one more, Ranger Bonnie? Do we have another idea from our audience of how we can help the kelp?
and the answer is
Does the water be clean sometimes?
Vane. She asked, does the water get clean sometimes?
The water around me gets cleaned all the time. There's all kinds of animals here in the kelp forest that help maintain the water quality. Animals like mussels, barnacles, filter feeders who have water pass through them, and they eat a lot of those decomposed material in the kelp. They are the natural filters and cleaners of our ocean waters. Meanwhile, animals like sea cucumbers will eat a lot of the detritus or the decomposing material on the bottom of the ocean and keep our kelp forest clean. So yeah, there's a lot of natural cleaning that happens out here. We also have a process called upwelling, where colder, nutrient-rich water comes up from deep at the bottom of the ocean and makes its way into the forest around us. Sometimes when we have a really nice upwelling event, we'll have gorgeous visibility in the kelp forest. But that's lots of new nutrients for those filter feeders to sift through and keep our oceans clean. Awesome. Those are two really good suggestions of how we're connected to the kelp and how we can help the kelp. Ranger Bonnie, I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's been really nice to be connected with you and explore these fantastic kelp forests around us. Do you have any parting thoughts before we take off today?
We have one comment.
Did you see a lion, the spooky fish around you there?
Ranger
Oh,
Bonnie, do you want to follow up on that? We're getting a little bit of an echo off of the audience microphone.
She asked, do you see lionfish out there?
Hopefully not. Lionfish are not native to this area. They're actually invasive in different parts of the United States. I used to live in the Philippines, so I'd see native lionfish when I would dive there. But here in the kelp forest of the Channel Islands, even if a lionfish made their way out here, they probably wouldn't last too long. This is a much colder ecosystem than they're used to out here. Awesome. Well, thank you all very much for those questions. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Best
Ruvain,
starfishes to all of you.
they say thank you. And we do have one more question or comment, if you have a moment.
Oh, we certainly
What's
do.
your favorite thing you've seen?
Can I get
Ruvain,
that one more time, Ranger Bonnie?
yes. Her question is,
What's your favorite thing you've seen?
Oh man, that's tough. My favorite thing that I've seen. There's a bunch of really cool animals that live in the kelp forest. One of them is called a giant sea bass. Giant sea bass are connected to people too. They can get massive, like 500 pounds massive. Huge fish that can weigh 3 times as much as me. And they're still here. They're still connected to the islands. They used to be much more common. But because of overfishing in the 20th century, we lost most of our sea bass. So now they're protected and they're starting to come back. And you can't tell with the kelp forest in between us. But on the other side of this cove, there's a giant underwater arch that extends up and down, and you can swim through it. And one time, a giant sea bass that was probably 200-300 pounds decided to give us a little escort and swam us through that underwater arch. That's one of my favorite things I've seen in the kelp forest. The return of species that have been threatened but are now coming back thanks to our actions. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ranger Bonnie. It was a great opportunity to remain connected to all of you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and best fishes to everybody.
on the count of 3, we'll say thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Ranger Ruvain. We had so much fun with you.
See you next week.